Welcome everyone to So Says Shernoff. I'm Josh Shernoff and I am happy to have you here with me today. We have a fun show for you. A little later I'll be sitting down with the creator of the RetroMania video game, Mike Hermann. But first, I want to tell you about a new show coming to Fight TV. Live on August 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Mind of the Meanie podcast presents Alternative Commentary, the SummerSlam edition. Hosted by myself and the Blue Meanie, we will provide an alternative commentary to SummerSlam. Think Mystery Science Theater 3000 meets two people trying desperately not to say something that gets them blackballed from wrestling. I could not be more excited to be a part of that, especially alongside my friend, the Blue Meanie. But now that we've covered that, let's jump into some headlines. Where to even begin with this month? So much has happened in the past 30 days, from Chris Jericho's short-lived online feud with Sebastian Bach to Adam Cole's work-turned-shoot-turned-work with Pat McAfee after McAfee called him short, which is ridiculous. Right? Nobody's calling Zack Sabre Jr. short, and he and Adam Cole are both billed at 6 feet. Then there was the NXT star caught on hard cam giving his opponent the old "how's your father?" But I think today, much like the Columbus, Georgia Police Department, our focus should be on Marty Jannetty. For those who don't know, the 60-year-old Jannetty recently shocked the world with an online post casually mentioning that time he killed a man and disposed of his body in the river. Now, I'm not sure what's more disturbing, the fact that he so nonchalantly confessed to this alleged crime, or the fact that Marty Jannetty is 60. Either way, the police are apparently looking into the matter. Something that has not stopped Jannetty from going into further detail. And while some of what I'm going to say is very serious and not something to laugh about, some of the ways he said things is objectively ridiculous. Jannetty spoke to the New England-based Millennium Wrestling Federation on August 5th, hours after his post, and explained the situation in grave detail. And ignoring the part of the interview where he calls out Mark Zuckerberg for censoring his post on Facebook, and the part where he apologizes for using foul language during the interview because kids could be listening and he wouldn't want to upset them while telling his tale of murder, there were some amazing quotes that I would love to take you through right now. Like when Jannetty says, quote, "I was upset. Dragging him to the river and throwing him in and finding out on the news this guy's missing, that effing affected me bad, bro." Before adding, "I'm not saying he died, but no other kids had to worry about him." Okay, just hold on. You said he disappeared, but you didn't kill him. But you also said in your Facebook post that if anyone wanted to find him, they should have looked for him in the river, the same river you just said you dragged him to before hearing on the news that he was missing. You know what? Maybe this whole thing is just out of context. Maybe Marty just knows that this guy loved to swim in the river. Think about it. Hey, where's Jimmy Pedophile? Oh, he's probably down swimming in the river, picking up chicks. Oh, do a lot of girls hang out down there? Oh, no, I mean baby hens. He likes them young. But the whole thing is so confusing. Between the post and the interview, Marty made it very clear that he defended himself with a brick, that he wasn't trying to kill the guy, but after beating him over the head, he then dragged him to the river. Now, the person was obviously missing long enough for the news to pick up on this, but Marty won't confirm that the man died. Look, assuming everything happened the way Marty is at times desperately trying to say it happened, then we're talking about the attempted rape of a 13-year-old boy who defended himself against the much older and larger attacker. It's easy to laugh at the way Marty is retelling this, or the fact that he posted this story as an explanation for why he couldn't handle his girlfriend's jealousy. So connect those dots. But Marty went back and forth many times in the interview as to whether he killed the man or just beat him up with a brick. Like either way, the police are looking into this, and whether or not the questions around this 45-plus-year-old incident will ever be answered remains to be seen. But one would assume that at worst we are looking at a self-defense situation because after all, as Marty put it, quote, "It was the right thing to do in the moment. I didn't know how to handle that. I ain't never tried to be raped before." Moving on. WWE. Raw Underground is a thing now, and while many people feel it's a terrible grasp at a rating, others feel optimistic that it could help elevate new talent. Unless you're the former Rusev who tweeted, quote, "We want to build new stars, new talent. Shane is back." Sums it up. Wow. Man, seems kind of bitter. You'd think WWE let him go during a pandemic and then created an unsafe working environment where his wife may or may not have picked up COVID-19 and spread it to both her parents and her husband. But it must be something else. And finally, retribution. It's like WWE saw someone on Pinterest make Nexus and then tried to do it themselves, only they did Nexus too. So I just feel like this is a failed attempt at shock television. Also, we don't know who these people are, and not in a good way. They literally could be the ninjas that run around with Tozawa in a storyline that somehow managed to not age well in the moment it debuted. Anyway, if WWE, you know what? No matter what happens during this pandemic, it doesn't really matter because fans are going to want to forget that this time ever happened. So, you know, WWE, hit me with your worst. I honestly know you're going to do that no matter what. So, we'll be right back. The Mind of the Meanie podcast presents Alternative Commentary, live August 23rd at 7 p.m. on Fight. Hosted by the Blue Meanie and myself, Josh Shernoff. Don't miss Alternative Commentary live on Fight TV. Welcome back to the show. My guest at this time is from RetroSoft Studios and is the creator of the brand new RetroMania game that is available now for pre-order. Please welcome Mike Hermann. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Hey Josh, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want to jump right into this. So this game, first of all, it looks amazing. But it is the official sequel to WrestleFest. So can you tell us a little bit about how that went to be? Originally, it wasn't the official, it was the unofficial sequel to it, and now it is the official. How'd that all come about?
Yeah, so one of the things that WrestleFest, was my favorite game growing up, and what I really wanted to do with this project, RetroMania, was really the company unfortunately went out of business that created WrestleFest and then Superstars before that, Matt Mania, and a bunch of other wrestling games. It was called Technos of Japan. So I really wanted to kind of pay tribute to them and be the net, kind of carry that torch of all those great 2D arcade wrestling games that they created. So I had to do a little bit of research to find out who owned the IP, as it was transferred from one company to another until Arc System Works bought it. Now, Arc System Works makes Double Dragon, one of the more not makes Double Dragon. They own the rights now to Double Dragon. Okay. WrestleFest, Superstars. They created Guilty Gear, which is a series of fighting games, Blaze Blue, and more recently Dragon Ball Z. They have a fighting game, Dragon Ball Fighters, as well. So I found out that they own the IP. I talked to them, and then probably over 8 months, we negotiated, and I got a hold of the right people to contact, and then I had to go through Japan. And then they said, sure, you can call yourself the official sequel to WrestleFest. And on top of that, we have the Matt Mania IP, which was another favorite of mine growing up. So we're hoping they make an appearance as well.
That's awesome. So the idea of doing this, with today, it's like technology and video games gets better and better and better every single year. And we're taking this here now with RetroMania. We're taking it back. Right. Is it 8-bit or how does it with the sprites? What are they?
16-bit would
16-bit,
technically
okay.
be what it is, yeah.
So the idea of what were the challenges of actually kind of going back in time and doing these different types of I guess you'd say drawings. It's almost
Right.
that's because it really is. It's little drawings.
Yeah, it's all hand
together.
drawn artwork.
Yeah.
You know, I had to familiarize myself with the whole art pipeline and process and how it worked. Luckily, though, like you said, this was technology used to make WrestleFest almost 30 years ago now at this point. So we basically got all the benefits of the last 30 years. When they originally designed WrestleFest, they had to worry about how many sprites they could get on screen at once, how many colors they could use, you know, the processing power of whatever onboard CPU and RAM they could use on an arcade board. We were able to throw that all out the window. So we basically were able to do anything we could think of in a 2D or arcade wrestling game. So we really didn't have many challenges. And there's still been 2D games that have been made today up and through, you know, right now. So a lot of other people have been continued doing it. And the one thing that's really nice about pixel art and the sprite-based artwork is I think it really has held up over time. You can see even new games coming out with that pixel-based look, and it looks good still. So we think, you know, it was time to go back to it. No one else was doing it specifically for a wrestling game, like an arcade-style wrestling game like WrestleFest, and it was about time.
So who's your market here? Because obviously the people that jump out right away are people my age who grew up with this. To me, the first time I ever heard about this was actually the Blue Meanie was it was at StarCast, and he was wearing the shirt, and I was like, hey, what is that? And he put it over, you know, big time.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah,
Meanie's a good guy. I'm fond of him as well. I saw this. I remember thinking to myself, hey, he had these little flyers. I was like, can I take this? Because I wanted to send it to my brother, who's a huge video game fan. And because I just thought the concept of it was so cool. So obviously there's that, you know, the children of the 80s or 90s even. Is that your main audience, kind of that for people with nostalgia? Or do you think having this for things like, I know it's supposed to be the Nintendo Switch, do you think this is something that's also going to appeal to the younger audience?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely, I think the people that latch onto this is that nostalgia trip. So it's people that grew up in the 80s and 90s and played these things themselves when they were children, right? When they were teenagers or kids. So that's probably, I would say, based on the comments we've been getting on social media, that's our primary, that makes up, at least our social media audience, that makes up the most of. But I think, you know, it's something. I have kids, they play it, they like it, they enjoy it. I've had their friends play it. We've had a lot of kids play it at different wrestling events and conventions. You know, this is last year now at this point, but I think it can be more than just a nostalgia game. And the game in and of itself is a fun game to play. It's easy to pick up and play. You don't need to memorize a ton of controls, and people can get in it. There's always something satisfying about beating somebody else up. You know what I mean? Like in a video game. So whenever you do a move or something, and as long as the gameplay, and we think it is very satisfying to play, we think people of any age will like it as well.
It really, for me, you know, as the video games got, you know, there's more and more things you had to do, I really kind of tapped out at around the WrestleFest. That was my expertise level. So there's something that anyone who follows RetroMania on social media, they're familiar with how often you're asked about Demolition. If you want to set the record straight right now for the, I think, 70th time, probably this week, why is Demolition not in the game?
There's a licensing. Their license for the characters of Demolition is kind of up in the air. We couldn't get proof that they had it, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but basically we couldn't get a clear license that we were comfortable going with.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Which stinks, because I would love to put them in. So maybe we can work that out at some point. Who knows?
And then
what
possibly,
the future holds.
and you're looking at the possibility of downloadable
absolutely.
players at some point. So what's the when you were thinking about the roster, did you have anyone immediately in mind? Because it's such, you know, it really began with having, you know, the BWO, the Road Warriors, people like that. And then with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, who really fit into that retro brand as it is with everything with their podcast. Was there like a line? And of course, also you guys ran that, I believe it was like kind of a on social media, who would you want to have
Right.
from the
Indie Mania, yeah.
and Warhorse won that, I believe. So what was there like a criteria for who you wanted to have on here? Was it from a certain time period, a little bit from here, a little bit from there? What went into initially your mindset of who to have as playable characters in this game?
Yeah, we went back and forth a lot, where my initial concept was going to be all kind of legends type of wrestlers. But then when I thought, we're calling it RetroMania, but it's really more for that style of game, more so than the roster. At least that's what we kind of morphed it into. Whereas it's just anybody in professional wrestling's fair game to be in the game. There's guys that I like. It was personal choice, who was available, who wasn't under other licensing deals currently that we could get. Cost. Some guys wanted a lot more money, and they may have been worth that much money, but we just, being a small studio, we couldn't afford to pay it to them right now. So it was really a combination of those things, and just who would fit in the game. Like Warhorse is a great example. I didn't know who he was until our Indie Mania tournament, and that was the nice thing that we did about it. We got our audience that's continually been growing to give us all these nominations. Sure. I think it was something like 150 or 160 independent wrestlers were nominated for that tournament. And then the guy who helps me with social media, Mike T, he kind of narrowed it down. He's got more on his finger kind of on the pulse of independent wrestling, more so than I do. So he and the number of times people's names were brought up is how we kind of narrowed it down. But Warhorse is a great example of, he just looks like a fun character to play in a video game. You know what I mean? So that was another thing. We got Chris Bay out of that as well. Now he's with Impact Wrestling, but Chris really went above and beyond what we asked him to do during that social media tournament, and really did a great job in promoting himself, obviously, and he landed him a job with Impact, but also getting the fans behind him, and he made it to the Final Four as well. So we wanted to sign him, so we signed him for our DLCB, as he calls it, downloadable Chris Bay. So, it's really just kind of spans a gambit from legends to indies and everywhere in between.
So we talked about Warhorse and obviously Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. So along with some of these characters, there's arenas that are kind of fit to them. So you have Warhorse. You've been sharing some stuff on social media with his insane arena. And then the one that I thought was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen and had never even thought about something like this before is the Stomp in Paradise, I guess you'd call it. With the old school, it looks like the old school Hasbro ring, right in the middle there. And to have, it was just so neat to see these characters playing in a video game in a ring that you associate with action figures. Where did you kind of draw the line with that of who's going to get because obviously not everybody, or maybe, who knows, but not everybody can have their own custom arena. Where did you pick some of these? Pro Wrestling Tees Warehouse is in there, which is awesome as well. Where did you kind of come up with that idea, and how did you kind of cherry pick which person you wanted to do that with?
I think, to answer, I would like it at some point, if we could get one for everybody, that would be awesome. But it was really what ideas would really fit. And when Brian and Matt became available, I immediately, I was aware of their, I wouldn't say I was a frequent listener, but I've definitely listened to episodes of their podcasts. And I thought they would fit perfectly. We got them on the phone. We negotiated a contract. And I had the idea of, let's do this ring that you guys are always playing in, or playing with as grown men, right? Let's do something that resembles that in game. And they loved the idea. And so we did that. And then the Pro Wrestling Tees actually came about. We signed Colt Cabana pretty early on, and he's like, hey, why don't you reach out to Ryan over at Pro Wrestling Tees? Maybe you guys can do some cross-promotion stuff. So Ryan was really cool. He sponsored like our announcement videos with some of the wrestlers and gave away T-shirts. I think gave a pair of Johnny Retro sunglasses away and stuff like that. And then I said, originally it was just going to be, we're going to put his logo up in an arena, but I thought, this would be a cool way to tie it in. They have to have a warehouse, right, and do stuff. So, hey, let's put the Pro Wrestling Tees warehouse in the game. And really, we're trying to do anything that ties into the whole greater wrestling community. So you'll see some other stuff that we haven't really announced yet pop up as well once the final game is out.
So that's something that's so cool about this too. Like you talked about the greater wrestling community. You really are bringing from having the Road Warriors there to having a Chris Bay and Warhorse, and then having people straight off of WWE TV with Matt and Brian. So you really do have all of these different people. But speaking of that, you mentioned Johnny Retro. I was talking about people coming right off of WWE TV. You've got Chris Bay, like you said, is with Impact now. Matt Cardona is with AEW. Brian Myers with Impact. And you have Johnny Retro, since signing on for this, is now back with the WWE. What has that been like for you to just, you've kind of got these legends, these guys working the indies, maybe they're here, maybe they're there. And all of a sudden, it's like everybody wants to get that RetroMania rub because you sign on to RetroMania and things are going to explode for you. So how has that been? Like when you found out, was there any panic at first? Like, okay, we've got, with like John Morrison, like, oh, he's headed back to WWE. We've created this whole character. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I definitely did. As soon as he told us, there was a call into the lawyer, obviously, to make sure. But our contracts were already signed, like months in advance in all cases. Well, with Matt signed, I'm not sure when he signed his AEW contract, but we signed him within a week of him being released or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it was. I would love to say it was great planning on my part, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? Yeah, right. So, I mean, it was just guys I liked that happened to get signed elsewhere afterwards, really. I mean, you knew Matt and Brian were going to get signed somewhere. Warhorse Warhorse was on AEW not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. Right. So we're hoping for him that leads to something else. Chris was the same way. I didn't know he was going to sign with Impact in a couple months, but we got lucky. And then just Morrison going back to WWE. We have guys represented in pretty much every, and then the NWA, which we haven't really talked about, with Nick Aldis.
Right.
So we have guys from basically arena, all the big promotions right now. So
and you have the NWA arena in there. Is there any sort? Are you going to have the 10 pounds of gold featured? Is that?
Oh yeah. So there's a separate 10 pounds of gold mode. So that's kind of your typical fighting game. You fight through the roster kind of thing. But at the end, you'll face Nick Aldis for the championship.
That's awesome. As far as commentators, what do you have as far as who's doing the play-by-play? I mean, you've announced it before, but if you can take us through that.
So we have Ian Riccaboni and Cole Cabana will be doing some of the play-by-play. And so I don't know, do we want to talk about the ring announcer right now? I think
now's a pretty good time to talk about the ring announcer for this, because we haven't seen any videos of this, any pictures, any sounds. So I think people, the number one thing they want to know is, who is the ring announcer for RetroMania?
And I'm talking to him right now.
Yes, I am. So I'm formally announcing that now, and we'll show a graphic right now. I am so unbelievably excited. This has been one of the hardest things to keep to myself. I am so excited to be able to announce this and to be able to be a part of this. Yes, I'm going to be the ring announcer for RetroMania. It has been so cool for me to be able to record from everyone, from the Road Warriors. In what scenario otherwise am I ever going to be ring announcing the Road Warriors story? So it has been so cool, and seeing that the little sprite of myself when you sent that to me. And at first I'm like just seeing it as a picture. I didn't realize that you sent me the whole video of me walking in and out. I was just, you talk about growing up watching or playing these games. For me, this has been so cool. And I feel like this had to have been the case for so many other people involved as well, to see themselves in sprite form. So that was our big announcement here, for me, as it is.
We still have some more artwork to do from you that we're a little behind on finishing, and we'll get it all uploaded on the website very soon. But yeah, we're excited to have you on board. You really knocked the audio out of the park too. Just want to say, great job. I know I communicate that to you through email.
Yeah, I was very excited to hear that, because I was expecting something to come back going, listen, I know we said we'd like to have you in the game, but upon hearing this. It
was awesome. It was awesome. And we're actually working on right now getting that in the game now. So I'm hoping to be playing with you coming out later this week, which will be
man,
awesome.
I can't wait to see that and share that with everybody. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Anything else that you can share? Obviously, there are some things you haven't announced yet. Anything else that you can share that's kind of exciting or tease for the viewers here?
Well, we're going to probably announce some of our future DLC pretty soon, as we've signed 1 or 2 more people. We just got to finish dotting some I's and crossing some T's. So we are already planning that future DLC, and you're going to start seeing a lot more videos. We're really close to the end of our development cycle. And I know we don't have it. I'm sure one of your probably next questions was going to be, when's the game coming out, right? So we don't really have we haven't set an updated release date yet. We initially were trying to hit July, and just due to the whole world circumstance right now, we just couldn't do it. We were working hard, but things slowed down. Everybody on our team was affected by it. Not necessarily, came down with anything, but the whole world has changed the last 6-8 months, and we weren't immune to any of that either. So we definitely slowed down. And instead of putting another date on it that we may or may not make, we're taking it kind of day by day, week by week, and we're doing 2 updates a week on our website, so everybody stays informed as far as where we're going. And you'll start seeing some more screenshots and videos of the game in action with the actual characters in the game, so you'll know we're getting close to release then. So it's going to be this year, and we don't have many months left in the year, so obviously it's soon.
It's coming soon. And right now, where can everybody go? What are all the systems that you're going to be able to? You can go and pre-order right now. So where can they go to pre-order, and what systems do they have the opportunity to play on?
Yeah, so for pre-orders, we can do Nintendo Switch and the PC via Steam. And then we are going to be on Xbox One and PS4 as well. And we'll be up on right now you can only pre-order from our website at RetroManiaWrestling.com for Switch or PC. But once we are probably about 30 days out from launch, we'll be on the eShop for Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and we'll be online at all the typical stores that sell digital games once we're about 30 days out from launch. Right, wow. And the pre-order price is $24.99, so you get $5 off. It'll be $29.99 when it launches. And
if for nothing else, you just want to be able to listen to the ring announcer, it's worth every
Absolutely.
penny. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here and talking to me and helping me to make this announcement that for me may very well be the coolest thing I have ever done in my entire career. I'm so excited to be a part of it, so excited to play this game and have my kids finally think I do something cool. So I'm really looking forward to it. The game is RetroMania. Mike Hermann, everybody, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
All right, we will be right back. The Mind of the Meanie podcast presents Alternative Commentary, live August 23rd at 7 p.m. on Fight. Hosted by the Blue Meanie and myself, Josh Shernoff. Don't miss Alternative Commentary live on Fight TV. Well, that's our show, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Make sure to follow us on social media at So Says Shernoff and at Shernoff Show. Go to youtube.com/So Says Shernoff and subscribe for some of our great videos over there. And do not forget to go to fight.tv August 23rd live at 7 p.m. Eastern for alternative commentary during SummerSlam. This has been So Says Shernoff, because that is what Shernoff had to say. See you later.